You've got the mana shield to hold you up steady, and then you've got the heal coming through with a Sunray. It's a fairly solid way to start off for Boom. Execration, I guess you could argue that the Mirana can melt the Phoenix Egg. I don't think that's a major factor for Boom yet. They could still kind of build off with the Egg combo on the off lane. Egg plus Stone Gaze is actually pretty strong. As long as you drop your Egg next to the Dusa, they have to make that choice between trying to burst the Egg or facing away from that Stone Gaze to prevent the stone from coming out.
So is this Mirana a little bit more of a flexible pick that they could be running at the moment, sort of unsure exactly where it's going to go?
Tends to be in that support role for the most part. I'd argue that we probably have our two supports, unless they flex the Elder Titan. That's the more of the flexible pick. Axe safe lane ET off could be one idea here for Execration if they want to go that route. Still fairly active. They've got really good synergy there. You blink call, you get the stomp, you get the Earth Splitter off from the ET. It's a lot of good AoE damage on hand. And you can drop the natural resistance of that Dusa down with your Astral Spirit as well. So you do have some ways of bursting down that tanky pause 1, but the protection is coming out from Boom. Clockwork on top of the Phoenix. They've got sort of an egg combination there with a power cogs to save. They've got more aggression coming out from the supports than we saw last time. This should lead to more plays coming out from Boom than we saw in Game 1.
10 seconds.
We are seeing a lot more of that burst damage coming out from Execration. You know, that's something that they ran in the first game and it seemed to do well for them. So do you think Boom is retaliating to that a lot more than what we saw with their first game draft, John?
I think so. I think they're looking to just change up the playstyle. I think they can kind of just hold their own with those two heroes. Really surprising is Creation go into the Invoker, but it's almost the same mindset here as well, right? With Axe Invoker, with a Mirana, it's still the same sort of capability of Sunstriking with a call, Sunstriking with the arrow. It's not as easy to set up compared to having the DK on hand, but it's still very potent, and Yoa had a really good time in game number 1. It wasn't like an overwhelming performance in the Invoker, but he was just willing to give that space out for the bigger core, and I think what's going to be interesting for Execration is, are they fully going to commit for Axe safe lane? Because they could still flex that off, go with ET Mirana support and have something else for Palos, but, you know, it's still fairly open that the pocket pick, their last pick overall, can kind of set it up. But this is what Mike was talking about as well. TA coming out, it's that big mid hero that can be your win condition in case things fall flat for the Dusa. It's just a lot of farm for these two heroes now on hand. Like, there's not enough space to really sustain both of them if they fall behind.
Mike, walk me through this TA pick, because I personally am very excited to see it. I think there's a lot of hype for myself to see a TA being played here, but walk me through it a little bit more, especially paired with the current picks that they have.
I think it's going to be great. Like, it's a little bit greedy, right? Like, people would look at this on paper and go, wait a minute, there's a Medusa, there's a TA, both of them want to sit in the jungle for 2 years and just keep farming up. But I think Boom is one of those teams that can really make it work, and especially when you look at how long the last game lasted and how slow it was going throughout the early to mid. I think Boom might have the impression that if they can kind of emulate that style of game, TA Medusa, you're not really going to be able to outscale them later on. So we've seen Boom run the Medusa TA kind of lineup many times. They are very good at it. They are very practiced in it. And it does inspire a lot more confidence in me, knowing that we've watched this so many times from them, and they look pretty solid every single time. So I think it's a pretty good pick. It's definitely a little bit greedy, but I like it.
You've made me so excited to see it now. John, out of the Medusa and the TA, who do you want to be coming online first? And especially with that Tide now too.
I think the TA has to be online first. You want to hit your Dragonlance Desolator timing here. You want to play around with that Tide ASAP. It's a lot of minus armor to go around looking for those early kills. So you can definitely play with that momentum. The Medusa can kind of take the backseat for a bit, not priority on the stacks at least. I think the TA should definitely get first dibs there until that Desolator or Dragonlance is up, and then you can transition away. But it's a really strong team fight out from Boom. They've got the Ravage set up for the Egg. Execration with us closing out Morphling. You talked about this, Nat. You raised up that possibility for Morph. It slides out, and it is a Palace special here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this morph. You know, I feel like I've just been treated in game number 2. I've got the morph I talked about, and I've got the TA that we talked about hadn't really been touched yet in the few games that we have watched. So it definitely is shaping up to be two very, very entertaining drafts here. But Mike, out of the two drafts, which side are you leaning? Do you think Execration are going to be able to get that flex with the axe pick?
I really like the last pick morph. I must admit, because you can go into the TA, you get the refraction, and it makes it that much more difficult to deal with you on the morphling. But I know better than to doubt Makoto TA. So I've doubted it before, and I've eaten my words way too many times. So I'd have to say Boom Esports came out with a better draft, but I'm probably going to be completely wrong. So don't believe.
And John, what about you? Which side are you going to be leaning towards? Just draft based.
Just draft based, taking out the players themselves. I'd say Execration,
Yeah.
like what Mike was saying. Like you have to factor in Mikado TA, but just looking at the heroes on hand, Execration has a pretty solid lineup. Palos on the Morphling once more, something he's super comfy with. And they can kind of distribute their farm the same way they did in game 1, just hyper focus on the Morphling. You don't need too much in your Invoker Axe. Whereas for Boom, you want a much more even farm distribution with the Dusa TA. And if it starts to taper off a bit, the map is not going to be big enough to give them all the items they need to scale at the same time. So someone's going to have to take a hit, and that is going to kind of take away from those major power spikes that these items will provide you down the line.
Yeah, well, it looks like Execration have gone with Try and True, what won them in the first game, pretty similarly, whereas Boom is going to be shaking a lot of things up with their game plan. But I'll let you two go and jump into this game, and I'm excited to see what plays out.
Thank you very much. Now we are going into game number 2 between Boom Esports and, of course, the side of Execration. John, game 1, very slow kind of game, but Execration, they managed to pull out the victory for themselves. You talked about the draft just a little bit just then. You said you favored Execration. This Morphling pickup, I mean, it's going to be an off-lane axe. We've got a safe-lane Morphling. Do you think Palos is really going to be that kind of top-tier Morphling player that we're looking to see here up against Boom Esports?
He's got to pull it out. I think when you close out in a Morphling when it's been really out of meta for a lot of teams for a while, you have to have something in mind for it. And Execration has given this Morphling out to Palos, to Yoa on occasion, multiple times. So it's something they're used to playing with. What I worry about is whether or not they can sustain what Boom wants to do. Because, you know, we talk about TA and Medusa being greedy, but this is something Boom has played around with before. In fact, this tricore of TA, Tide, and Medusa is something Boom used to draft quite often. And they've got enough experience with it that I think they know what timings to hit. They know how to split that farm up with Dream Whistle and Mikato. As long as they keep controlling their jungle relatively secure, I think they should still be able to get that farm up. So there's a lot of conditions for both Palos and Boom to find those win conditions. They have to certainly win out their lanes on both sides, and whoever starts to dip behind just a bit is gonna struggle a bit. You know, like you definitely don't want the TA to lag behind in that mid matchup versus the Invoker. Yoa's gonna have to pull out all the stops to make it as hard as possible for Mikado to keep that farm game up. And I think in this case, you might have to be more conscious about that triangle farm coming out from Boom, because the TA is going to have it on the small camp. The Ancients and the large camp's going to be stacked up as well for the Dusa. So there has to be more activity coming out from Execration in that jungle, and more emphasis has to be put on taking out that mid-tier one a bit earlier on.
I admit, John, I really do like this this new cosmetic for Elder Titan, by the way. Very, very nice. The whole arm thing going on. Very, very good. I was listening to what you said, by the way, Don. Thank you for that. Completely ignore you, just in case you were wondering.
That's fine. Don't you reckon that it would have been better to have just an actual stapler, Elder Titan? That would be more in character. Or a briefcase, an actual briefcase, right? I
mean, you know, Elder Titan Arcana, once it gets voted in, I'm sure Valve will have to do it. As speaking of, RR is going to run right into Hyde, but Hyde just going to trade a bit of harass and walk his way back. The Tide Phoenix lane, though, up against RR on that Elder Titan, and of course, Palos on the Morphling. Be an okay lane for Palos, I'd say, right? Like, you can't imagine too much harass being thrown the way of the Morphling with a Tide Phoenix, especially when you've got a support like the Elder Titan.
Yeah, it's not the most painful lane. Like, you've got the early gush to maybe try to harass out, but Phoenix doesn't right-click particularly well. I guess once the level 3s are out, that's when it feels better for Hyde, but at the same time, once Palace has level 2 attribute shift, harder to zone out. So it's all about hitting the level 3 first. First few levels should be basically RR running up at them every single time he's got the Astral Spirit out. And with that Astral Spirit, you actually do have to watch out, especially for Hyde. He doesn't have too much armor on hand, and once he gets a couple of hits in, he could find himself in a spot of trouble.
Absolutely. We'll have a quick gander, though, at the other lanes as well, while we still have a chance. Of course, mid lane, you've got Yoe there against Makoto. Now, I'd say Makoto should have a decent enough advantage on that TA. But right now, Yoe is doing a great job, 5-2. Just one last hit behind Makoto. You kind of wonder, though, as the levels go up. Makoto obviously just going to kind of rotate into the side camps, start taking those instead. Yoed, do you think he keeps up here on the Invoker, or does it even matter? Because last game he was quite broke, and it just didn't seem to really matter at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much emphasis on Yoe. The key thing is, as long as he gets his EXP, he's fine. If you hit through spikes, you get your spells up, you can kind of combo with your ET, with your Mirana down the line, and that's the more important part. You want to be able to contest that jungle. You don't care too much about how this lane works out in the end. As long as you don't die, you're fine.
Woo, Makoto. He saw that one coming, but just stood his ground there for a second, and he's going to be all right. The arrow did not connect in the end. Easy, just going to make his way back up towards the top lane, which... have a quick look at the bot lane because our Morphling is in trouble. But Palos, he's going to be able to survive. A nice little Fire Spirit there right at the tail end onto Palos, just making sure he hasn't popped a salve. RR going to get back to work immediately on that Elder Titan to try and force Hyde back. RR, he does have the salve on him. I'm kind of waiting for if you are Palos, but looks like he's still going to be able to just kind of sit underneath the tower and keep his own farm up anyway.
It's fairly secure here. He does have some stick charges as well if he wants to just pop it at max agi just to have some burst heal on hand. So not too hard to sustain. He hits level 3, now level 4, level 2 attribute shift. Harder to zone out that morph, and should be a lot easier for him to find that stable farm here.
Well, let's look at the top lane as well, right? We've got Nico there on the Axe, we've got BDZ on the Mirana. They are going to be up against XctN and Dreamer Soul. Dreamer Soul really having a nice time at the moment on that Medusa, 20-1. In terms of slowing him down, I don't see a way to do it with this Axe pickup, right? Like, Nico, he could secure his own CS, but it does feel like Dreamer Soul is going to be able to get pretty much all the CS he wants in this lane without really much contention.
It's just really not a lane that you deal with too well. Dream Assault's just not caring at all. Sure, there's not much aggressive potential from Boom, but neither is there aggressive potential for Execration. So in an even passive lane like that, you're kind of happy with a Deuce on your side.
It's cute. Hello to the BDZ, but eventually be forced to back off. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, RR having a go at Hyde. RR will be the one to just TP back towards the fountain and hide. Stick around. No kills on the map though, 4 minutes in. There's been a couple attempts from XctN and BDZ in that mid lane, but that's about all that's happened. So both teams, again, just more than happy to just let this laning stage play out. Arrow does connect from BDZ onto Dreamer. In fact, that is a lot of mana being lost here from Dreamer Cell. He does get called up. Nico not getting any spins at the moment, but they'll try to get the damage out. There's one, and Dreamer Cell will eventually drop, it looks like, as Nico does get the first blood. His mana pool went down real darn quick.
You can't underestimate the damage from even a level 1 Battle Hunger. With no creeps to kill, your shield just takes it, and you don't have much mana in that laning phase, so DOT damage definitely putting a big dent there. The Dream Assault have to be cautious. XctN was also a bit out of position to back up that Dusa, and you're just getting a lot more now for Execration. That one little kill kind of draws this lane towards their way. The Dream Assault's going to have to be extra cautious now, as Nico's got a bit of a level advantage on hand here.
And he does. Great old time now on the Axe, and I was just saying a second ago they wouldn't be able to do much about Dreamer Soul John, but he does get caught with his pants down like that. It's a bit of a different story. BDZ just being so influential already on that Mirana. She was last game as well, just a very kind of pesky Mirana player. always having those very sneaky angles to throw those arrows out, and it's classic BDZ for you, even in that position 4 role. It's almost like he's playing a core. It's a core role, and it's always really scary up against the pos 4 of BDZ, as he'll chuck another cheeky arrow out in the mid lane, but it's going to be onto the siege creep, and we are going to pause immediately. Speaking of the devil, like he's having a few lag issues.
Well, it's not a Southeast Asian game without some lag issues. Good to see
No.
that we've got tradition kept alive here, Mike.
Absolutely. Very important.
You know what, Mike? It's also
Yeah.
merienda time. It's actually merienda time right now. So it's a good time to pause, go out, grab some coffee, come back, maybe grab some ensaymada as well, tune in, to dig in for some good Dota, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, John. He's going to continue stacking up, it looks like, in that triangle for now. Alos. Dealing with FBZ just fine, but in terms of CS, he's not looking too great, as in the river now, it looks like they have ended up finding out Makoto. And he has the refraction up, so he takes no damage. Gonna walk away, back into that mid lane, just keep the farm up. Nothing to stop him here. Execration. I feel like they are gonna have some issues here with this TA. Makoto just getting the freest farm of his life. 49 and 3. He's just going to be able to go back to the jungle over and over again, and there's just not much in the way of being able to catch him out yet.
Yeah, they haven't really emphasized those triangle wards as well from inside of Execration, so they're not fully aware of the stacks coming out. Mikado's at the point where you can just clear them out, ride towards Dragonlance, not too far off, and this is where some of his more passive gameplay is going to hurt Execration. Like, this definitely favors Boom a lot more. They've got really quick farming cores in that Dusa, in that TA, and Execration not quite having that same opportunity to flash farm. Like, they've still got Palos in a pretty good lane down bot, but I think holding this lane solo now is not really doing as much for him. Like, there's enough on FBZ to stay alive throughout those trades. His farm isn't really accelerating in the same way as our TA or even as our Medusa is. It's always going to be pods.
Oh, Dream Assault. It's the Stone Gaze off just in the nick of time as Nico, he connected with the call. He's going to be alright, but you can see Dream Assault, he's a bit spooked out right now. Doesn't really want to go up against Nico if he can avoid it. Of course, over in the mid lane, RR going to get caught out now by XctN, and got the Elder Titan. He's trying to go for the stomp, but with the battery assault there's no chance in hell of getting that off. Makoto does pick up his first kill of the game. Of course, for Makoto, after that, back to CS.
Yeah, just building up that farm. He's got a good amount of EXP on his belt as well. Level 9 compared to Yoa at level 7.5. A really good point for that TA to start kicking off. Once the Dragon lances up, you can definitely apply more pressure with the Sideblade spill extending as well. And that's when it can get a bit dicey for Execration. Execration, for their part, though, they're not really crumbling to pressure. They're not making any big plays. They take a loss here and there, but they take it in good stride. They're just playing as slow as they can. Look at all these stacks coming out from Nico in the triangle. And that's a good amount of farm to come out on the Axe, who already has that Vanguard, slowly building into the blink. And of course, he's got the chipped vest, as you tend to expect.
Does. How does this always happen? Like, every Axe player finds the chipped vest. You play Drow or Medusa, you always find a Grove Bow. How does this work? Sometimes it's ridiculous, John.
Definitely is. I think for Execration, they would have probably liked to have had a Possessed Mask for Palos instead. And we've seen Morphlings with Possessed Mask bypass Morbid Mask. It might have led to better farm output for Palos, focusing on his first major item before going for the lifesteal. But, you know, you take what you can get. Chip Vest on Axe is still pretty spicy. So, still overall pretty nice. And looks like Nico's changed his mind. Oh, I saw him queuing up the blink. He's going to go for the Manta style first. So they're not going to have that straightforward initiation on Execration. We'll have to watch out, as that could slow their pace down a bit compared to Boom, who can just start fights with Ravage on 1 or 2, go from there, clean up with the Egg, clean up with the Stone Gaze on top of it, and just kind of force the issue a bit quicker compared to Execration without that blink.
see the jungle of Boom now being shared between Makoto and Dreamer Soul, who has kind of had to go to the jungle a bit earlier than he would like. Nico still being a real nuisance in that top lane as he chases down Hyde now on that Phoenix. And Hyde is going to try and run and will avoid the call. Nico, not done yet though, as BDZ. Another nice arrow out from the Mirana, and they'll just dunk on him. Will allow them to get started on that top tier 1 tower now. The sea creep is making its way over. Yeah, great news for the side of Execration.
Just some much needed space coming through to get some tower damage as well. Not the fastest tower pusher on Axe, but you can tank the tower, enable your creeps to hit. And there's no counter movement out from Boom to find her own tower trade. No movement down bot, no movement down mid. They're coming in for the defense though.
Yeah, Nico gonna be slowed up. Makoto, XctN, FBZ, all there. A nice arrow is gonna connect from BDZ, but he is completely surrounded. He'll try to get a kill, and he does get one. He'll get something before he does go down, and now RR actually showing himself onto the Tide Hunter. They'd love to get FBZ, but a big Ravage out. Up to 4 heroes of Makoto with the Side Blades, trying to get the damage out as BDZ. He's gonna drop. Alos doesn't know why he's still here. He'll try to find his way out of this with the attribute. Rather adaptive strike. Alos, he's dropped way too low, and Execration, they have gone way too far. Doom Esports, they'll clean up. FBZ, he couldn't have asked for an easier Ravage.
Bumped around Yoa.
Still around FBZ, he might finally get punished as Yoe. Let's kill him off, so they'll get a bit of revenge on. In fact, Hyde now. Gonna try and run, and he does have the Icarus dive out. Just won't commit it yet. In fact, he'll go for the egg. Makoto. Does kill off Yoe with it, so the egg does buy enough time, but Makoto now is being chased down. XctN's gonna show up. Nico's in trouble. They've got him in the comms. They'll lock him down and they'll take him out. I thought it was a weird egg to begin with, John, but now I see it was all just in trust of Makoto to get the job done.
And it feels like Execration's just not respecting this TA. Mikado with the Dragonlance has pretty good range, but it's really down to the Psyblade spill. The damage reaches out further, and it just absolutely melts these heroes. They don't have much armor right now as well. So you're just ripping right through with Mikado's damage output. Execration need to respect that. They had Paulus way too far forward for that sort of engagement, and while all of that happens, Boom are buying out space for the Dusa. So they're taking fights 4 versus 5, and their Dusa is just free farming bot lane. This is a win-win for Boom as they carry on with a 2k lead on hand, and Execration have to be really careful about these next few fights.
Lane, Makoto, XctN both having a look here onto Yoe, but hookshot gonna be off the mark, so Yoe, he could go for a run and will back off. In fact, they'll go back in now. Makoto doesn't want to be here with the big earth spinner out from RR, and the arrow is there. They will take down Makoto. XctN misses the hook, and immediately Execration will punish Boom Esports for continuing to move forward.
The really good turnaround from Execration. Paulus showing up at the least to get some of that AoE gold as well. And that's a pretty big kill. Like, Mikado was worth a lot of gold just because he had that huge streak on hand. And giving Paulus that TA form, even just for a while, does give him a lot of opportunities. The camp dies a lot quicker, although he doesn't keep that form long enough to maximize it for Ancients. Still gonna feel really good on that Morphling. SNY almost done, just lacking the Sanj. Once you do have that with the additional strength, with the status resist, it's going to be easier for Paulus to put himself forward in these fights and make use of that morph to take some of these engagements.
Oh, this hook shot this time will land. Yoe in big trouble. It looks like he will be bursted down. Now, Nico, he's going to run right in with a call out, but Dream Missile's going to pop the Stone Gaze. They are going to continue this team fight. Moonlight Shadow, though, is going to kick in. Enough to allow Execration to back off. They definitely want to try and defend this mid-tier 1 tower. You don't really want to lose it like this, but the damage is already quite high from Boom Esports, and they've got it. No Ravage necessary.
Execration, it's not quite shaping up the way they want to. I think they've had some opportunities, especially post-Ravage from FBZ. They could have looked for some opportunities to go there. But I think a couple of things here for Execration. They're willing to take these bigger team fights, but I think they could just play the pick-off game, hunt down that Medusa, although.
Where? Heading up, FBZ very, very far forward, out of position here in RR. It's a stop off into the arrow and the call and the dunk. It's easy pick off onto FBZ. Even as the Tide Hunter, you don't really want to be that far forward if you can avoid it. He was under vision the whole time, and it's Execration, they will punish you for that.
It's a pretty nice kill to take. I think for Boom's part, it's all a distraction. Like, they drag everyone there to kill off the Tide. That's the exact opposite side of where Dreamo Salt's at. So the Dusa keeps farming, the TA keeps farming, Blinks up in Makato, Desolator next. They haven't done anything to stop this greedy dual core. And they've still got the lead on Boom's end. So despite having a less greedy lineup on Execration's part, they're not really able to leverage that in a meaningful way. Boom's still farming just perfectly fine here.
Skewed. Runs right in to Yoe. Nico gonna be around as well, and his clockwork, he's dropping low, but they have the damage to finish him. Well, eventually they'll get him, but now Dreamercell's gonna show up along with Hyde. They'll commit the egg, and Makoto will show his own face onto Yoe. I'm gonna get the Invoker. Get a great trade for themselves. Mind you, John, they did commit the buyback onto Keskut, so maybe a bit of a wasted buyback out from Boom, but well, now a wasted hook shot as well. Won't matter too much though. Getting the kill onto the mid Invoker, gonna feel pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, Execration just sort of sacrificing Yoe here. We sort of saw this in game 1. We talked about him having less farm than you'd normally want to see. It's kind of the same case here. He's going for the Force Staff, he's got the Witchblade, you're not seeing the Ags Rush, you're not seeing the typical complement on the Invoker, so it's going to be slow going for him. As long as everyone else gets farm, I think Execration's going to be fine with it, but they need more, especially in the Morphling. It's just not enough farm up against these two Flash Farmers on Boom.
Playing Boom, they're trying to set up. They still have that Ravage on FBZ. On strike, just to make sure they could check the Roshan pit. Boom, they weren't trying for it anyway. They're just going to back out again. It's kind of like you just said. Dreamercell's farming, Makoto's farming. That's great news for Boom Esports. Because you could say the same about Palos, but he just doesn't have those farming mechanisms that can really help him escalate. In comparison of a Medusa and a TA, who both just farm way too fast. I find this build up very interesting, by the way, John. The Diffusal Blade on Palos. And against Dreamercell makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty good, especially if you want to play aggressive SNY Diffusal. The Inhibit's pretty darn good to help you control as well. And of course, as you mentioned, against the Dusa, you can just melt the shield. So you don't have too much to worry about there. You don't need to apply that much pressure in Yoa to land the EMP Tornado. You can kind of take care of the Dusa yourself. And this does mean Palos can actually join these fights earlier. Now, whether or not you actually want your Morphling to join earlier up against a TA who's going to have Desolator Blink, Dragonlance is a different question, because Mikado is looking really scary on that TA. He's just going to be able to burst you down if you don't manage to juggle your HP around carefully.
There's your Deso up. Now Makoto well and truly online. Maybe you'd like a BKB on top of that, but he could definitely look to burst anyone down that he wants to. You see when he does really get to abuse these items he's just picked up. In fact, as I say that, he is making his way into the Roshan pit. That added minus armor with the Gush as well from FBZ. This Roshan is not going to last very long, but you definitely have the tools to scout this one out. So you're going to fight into a Medusa as well in the Roshan pit, which makes it that much more difficult. And now a hookshot is out. RR completely wiped off the face of the earth. Koto with the Meld Strike will be more than enough into the Roshan pit.
Yeah, and Execration don't have the best ways of accessing the pit. They don't have a blink on their axe. They can't really just zip in on their Morphlings. It's going to be a freebie coming out for Boom. It's going to be a nice safety net for Mikado with the Aegis online, and that just means he can throw his body forward. Level 18 picked up as well from taking out the Roche, so max level traps on hand. There's a lot that Boom can play with. They've got a 4K lead, 8 to 10. The farm between Dreamosol and Mikado is super tight as well. They're only about 700 gold off of each other. So they've done a really good job in splitting up that jungle farm really evenly. And Execration, we talked about it. They had to play a lot faster. They had to shut down that triangle area, invade the jungle a lot more. We're 20 minutes in. They haven't really been able to do any of that in the map.
They're not. I wonder, how much faith do you have in Palos in this Morphling going into the later stage? Like, I realize we've said the whole game that, you know, he's up against Medusa TA. It's not going to be an easy game for him. It is still Morphling, though, John. And we know Morphling can be one of those heroes that's very balanced in the right hands. You think Palos could pull this off, even with this net worth deficit?
It's definitely possible. It's not like it's impossible for Execration to turn it around there, especially with this build from Paulus focusing more on our right-click Morphling. So they've got the opportunity to just fully itemize and turn into the TA, turn into the Dusa, and get some damage off. That can really be potent. You're not too far behind. 3k at 20 minutes isn't an outright loss just yet. So you can just keep holding on, keep building up. I think once you have the Scotty up on Paulus, he's going to be ready to join in a lot more often. And he's going to have enough stats to back himself up, even while fully agied up. So you just need to have the patience on this investment in the Morphling, and then you can certainly try to find some opportunities there. But I think the issue playing like that is, again, Boom enjoys that space more. TA farms faster, Dusa farms faster, so even if you're getting progression on the Morphling, it's never going to be as fast as these two heroes. And they've already gotten control of that bot jungle on top of their own jungle. So there's definitely enough space to actually sustain a farm those two big cores.
In through the bot lane they go. Why not just go high ground? I mean, you've got the Aegis up. You've seen how hard Makoto's hitting. Dreamosol, he hasn't even bothered fighting yet, but he's top of the net worth board, so he's going to be feeling confident as Nico is going to jump in, but a big ravage on FBZ. 3 heroes already being caught, and now XctN with the follow-up hook shot. It's going to be enough. They'll get Nico. They keep this up though. Dreamosol, he'll get to work onto that tier 3 tower. XctN is going to die, but now Palos, he's been slowed up by the Skadi slow. Going to be quite enough though to really control the Morphling. Chips away at the HP pool of Makoto. Yo, it. Might have just walked into that one. Makoto looks to blow up RR and does find him. I believe we're looking at Jackie right now with a pizza in his hand. There you go.
Yeah.
That'll be
Pizza
enough.
party.
Arrow.
Pull out, they take the tier 3. Ooh.
Very nice attempt at the arrow. Doesn't land. Just a tier 3 tower, like you said, John.
Yeah, and they're drawing lines, probably want to take care of that tier 1 up top to really enable themselves to take over the jungle on Boom side. They play really conservatively. They don't expend Aegis, they find a kill, they drop their clockwork, they take a tier 3 and they play it safe. This is a very calculated move out from Boom. They're not giving opportunities out to Execration. Execration, they're moonlit up, but they don't have forward vision. They don't have vision in that top jungle, no wards behind the mid tier 1, which still stands on Boom's side. So they can't really make use of the moonlight in the way they'd want to. They're just not able to really maximize the axe. Like, they're just not finding the opportunities to blink and call anyone.
Top lane, Palos. He's being targeted right now. Rocket Player gonna get vision as well. They'll get the silence off Makoto. He has an Orchid up now on Palos. He just melts. Just absolutely melting there. Will take a top tier 1 tower onto the top tier 2. And this is more like the Boom Esports we're used to, John. Very kind of surgical play here from Boom. Execration, they're yet to find their footing in this game. Like, I can't remember the last time a team fight really went their way in this game. It just seems to be all the way of Boom.
Yeah, they've just got a huge advantage to the items, so they'll...
MP, isn't gonna do much. Tier 3 tower gonna be chipped away at. You've got the Elder Time to slow things down, and now a nice arrow to set up on Makoto. But he's got an Aegis. He's gonna be just fine. In fact, as I say that, it does expire. We'll back off. That'll be enough.
just safe plays again. Boom, don't overextend, don't give openings. They know they've got the advantage. They're not in a rush. They've got a Medusa that scales. They've got a TA that scales relatively well. Execration, they're going to rely completely on Paulus. And we talked about him getting the Scotty. He stalled out with just one ultimate orb, so he's not getting enough progression in the stats department to be in the front line for his team, dishing the damage he needs to do. And that job is mainly relegated to Nico, who again just hasn't been seeing the opportunities for those blink calls. Boom has just been super disciplined to split up. They've got great gap close with the TA and the clock, so they're not under pressure to actually clump up front. And now they've got the Ags on Bremo Cell. So here comes the Stone Form flying out with the Mystic Snake.
And it's so hard to fight into this. We've seen it a couple times today already, but EMP gonna drain a little bit of mana from Dream Assault. Problem is with that Mystic Snake, he can kind of just heal them all back up. It's not really an issue here for Dream Assault. Make their way back up to the top lane. Of course, mid lane, one of the harder lanes to go through for the high ground, so find one of the side lanes first. Tier 3 just going to be chipped away at. No problems whatsoever for Dream Assault. Tornado, EMP again. Arrow is there to follow up, and they will drain a bit of mana again, but what do you do after that?
There's just no follow-up right now from Execration. Moonlight's up, but if they clump up too hard, a Ravage from FBZ could really cause issues, and they're just playing it safe. Boom. They're just not really going anywhere in home.
Chaos Media dropping, big Ravage out FBZ, just gonna look to blow up Nico. Palos has a Heaven's Halberd on this Morphing gun. Well, shot, oh, that's perfect. XctN, he found both of them. Palos is trapped in the cogs, but he will wait for him out of there. Yoe, he is not gonna be so lucky. He will drop. EDC is tired of the Fire Spirits, and they are onto the mid-tier 3 tower. Boom Esports looking unstoppable game through this far. Execration, they might try one more time. So for one last team fight, it's just thrown out. Palos has been solved. He's going to just try and walk his way away. He's going to be able to survive. But Boom, no, they can't really.
Ooh,
oh,
what?
no.
Palos, no!
He got rocket flared.
Boy.
It happens, John. It happened. XctN, props to him for kind of having the sense to get that rocket flare off, and well, with that, game 2 goes the way of Boom Esports.
That's a lot quicker. It was closer to the Boom Esports we know with the draft and with the playstyle. Execration were the ones to kind of go shaky. It looks like Axe is just not working out for either team, so we'll have to see how they shake it up. At least they've still got one more opportunity in the game number 3.
Yeah, I think it might be time for both teams to just kind of let the Axe go and maybe go down some other draft routes. But for now, it is MLP and johnxfire, and of course, we are going to be back after a very short break to discuss what happened for this game number 2.